Standing next to the UFC lightweight champ in the world on the cusp of breaking an important record. Does that play into your head a lot, or is it just, you know what, Anthony Pettis is the guy that I just have to beat. Let's deal with that first.
Well, it's always in the back of your head, I guess. You know, I have long-term goals. All those long-term goals are always in the back of your head, so to speak. But all that being said, first things first, let's go beat up this next guy in front of me.
I was sitting there. I was with TJ Grant when the fight was announced. Everything was good. You're fighting TJ Grant in Milwaukee, so I'm sure there was a bit of like, oh, I'm still going into Anthony Pettis territory. TJ gets a concussion, has to pull out. They bring in Anthony Pettis. Was there anything inside you that said, oh, I got to fight this guy in his hometown, or is it just whatever, man?
No, it's more. It's, you know, it is what it is. Sometimes that's the way it works out. You know, my last fight was against Gilbert Melendez in his hometown, San Jose. You know, I had Mark Bocek in Toronto in front of 55,000 people, his hometown. So it doesn't really matter to me finding somebody's hometown or not. That's the way it plays out sometimes. That's the way it plays out. You know, it is what it is.
I really like your comment about getting rid of the stain off your soul. I think that's very important. But how do you keep your emotions in check during training to make sure you're not overtraining to get that off of your soul?
That was one of the hardest things I had to work with, actually, was not being too amped up, not being too excited, wanting to do everything. As soon as I found out it was Pettis, I was like, oh man, turn around, I'm going back to the gym. I just got done with the workout. So one of the hard things I had to do was, you know, I'm an emotional guy, same as all fighters. All us fighters are pretty emotional, worked up sort of characters. Maybe we weren't hugged enough as kids or something like that, you know, but I'm as emotional as any other fighter. So that's the hard thing for me. I had to work on being calm, being relaxed, staying, you know, who's fraba.
Calm, relax.
Yeah.
I found it sort of peculiar during the pre-fight press conference, as well as a couple of questions that were asked to Dana afterwards, that Benson Henderson isn't finishing fights. And Dana began to, again, defend you and say, look, he may not be finishing fights, but he's super exciting. The same can be said about George St. Pierre, but I feel like, oh no, Benson is now walking into George St. Pierre territory where guys are going to start, or fans and pundits are going to say he's not finishing fights. Does that bother you at all?
To be honest, no, not really. Maybe it should, you know, but I don't know. I couldn't really care less. It's all just about, you know, having good performances, and that's what I want. I'm after good performances. If the guy leaves his chin out there, I touch him on his chin, knock him out, awesome, I'll take it. If you give me your neck, you give me your arm, I'll take those too, you know, and end the fight early, no problem. But what it's about is having good performances, having exciting fights. I give you an exciting fight, you know, have a good performance, get my hand raised. Like, you know, it is what it is. Sometimes when you're fighting literally the best guys on the planet, like I'm the best on the planet, every guy I face from here on out is going to be the next best guy, and not, you know, number 10 or number 15 or he's in the top 20 or he's in the UFC. No. Excuse me. These are the next best guys on the planet, guys who've had international fights, fought in Japan and, you know, all over the place, and they have 30-some professional fights, and in 30-some professional fights they've never once been finished before. So I'm like, hey, that's kind of a tall task to order right there, you know, to go out there and just put them away like it's no big deal, like it's the easiest thing in the world. Like, oh, I'll give my best shot. I'll give it a good old, you know, get some elbow grease in there and give it a good try. But these guys are pretty tough, you know, so hats off to my opponents. I think it's almost disrespectful to the opponent to say, oh, well, you should be able to finish this guy. You should be able to finish this guy. Well, this guy you're talking about is pretty good, dude. I don't know if you know this, and, you know, like, he's the next best fighter on the planet at 155. So, you know, it is what it is, though.
Yeah, the same thing that happens to George at 170. People don't realize that. Anthony's always doing this flashy stuff. He feels comfortable in the cage doing it. He trains it. Do you use flashy stuff in training that you would use in the cage, or is it just a matter of, no, you know what, we're going to keep things technical. I'm going to throw my 1-2s, my kicks, my Muay Thai, my wrestling, and my jits?
Well, you know, I like to do all of that. Also like to rely more on my fundamentals. Your fundamentals set up that flashier stuff. So I've thrown a few flashy stuff in my time, you know, the couple of kicks against Frankie, a couple of,
yes.
you know, like, you know, the kick off one leg and like all of that stuff or whatever. I got some flash too, but I like to rely on my fundamentals, and then those help set up the more flashier stuff.
Final question. Other than the W, if Ben Henderson can write the perfect script on Saturday night to define a victory, what would it be?
I guess getting that nice Harley at the end, Harley Davidson. You know, I don't know. I just that is the perfect ending, is going out, getting a good performance, having a good performance, getting my hand raised, and then afterwards going to go have a s'mores cheesecake from the Cheesecake Factory, which they just introduced July 23rd or something like that, and I was in camp, so I couldn't ever have a s'mores cheesecake from the Cheesecake Factory. But after weigh-ins, not after weigh-ins, after the fight, because I'm going to be good and not pig out like I normally do after the weigh-ins, but I'm going to wait till after the fight, then I'm going to go to Cheesecake Factory if they're still open. Hopefully you guys are still open.
And we got one of your coaches, John Crouch, to our right there. How many do you think he's going to have?
He can put away some cheesecakes. He can put away some cheesecakes. He'll probably have a few. I'll have a few too.
Thank you very much for your time.
Yeah, thank you, Joe.
He is the UFC lightweight champion of the world. History will be made Saturday night in Milwaukee.